Hello you guys, welcome back to another episode of Love Sis. My name is Vanessa. If you guys are new here and new to this channel, this is my podcast channel that I have definitely kept dormant for a little bit. I just haven't been as active over here, but I have a new series where I've been putting out video content. So if you guys are wondering what this new channel is, that's what it is. And I just feel like it's a way better way to connect with someone. Personally, I like watching video content, so I find it much easier to understand and all that. But today I thought we would just hang out and kind of chill. It's a very hot day outside, so I have light makeup on, and I thought I would just do a episode with you guys talking all about personal branding. And I feel like this is a very big topic, especially that I get asked from girls who are younger than me, and just like different types of questions about content creation and social media and how to use it as a tool and different things like that. I also wanted to talk not just about personal branding, but I also want to talk about the importance of becoming someone that is a character molded by God and by Christ, and the importance of who you are versus what you're doing and what you are becoming in life, because your identity is always going to be who you are, and there's such an importance about your character. And I feel like that is lacking in this world. Like, you could be, having the coolest job in the whole world, but your character is not matching up to the job, or you have a cool job but you lie and you steal. And so I don't think that that's cool. I don't stand for that. I don't agree with that, and I don't think that that's successful. I think being successful is being someone who is a child of God with nothing linked to it. I don't believe it is about status, about fame, about money. It isn't about that, and I know that success in the world looks so different than that. But that's why I'm here to break that mold and break that stereotype and kind of just help you get out of a rut and help you share my story of how I overcame thinking that success was fame and thinking that success was having more money or being, the popular girl at school. And so I just want to share with you guys an open side of my story, and I hope that you guys gain something from it. But I also have my computer here to my left, which is going to help me with some notes that I have. And I was just sipping on a little coffee. I've recently been loving making a vanilla oat milk latte coffee, and I really want to have one iced because it's so hot out. It's like literally so hot out today. But I really do enjoy making a coffee. It's also like 4 o'clock right now as I'm filming. I was supposed to film a little bit earlier, but I had work to do and stuff. So yeah, I just thought I'd get into it. And if you're new here, I love you, and I hope that you enjoy this episode. So I'm also sitting in a new area today. I thought I'd film upstairs. It was just a little bit more brighter, and it makes me feel just a little bit more alive. But let's just dive right into it. So I was going to talk about today creating a personal brand, but also doing it biblically in a way that honors God. Because I feel like when we think about social media, it's very on one. And so I know there's a lot of people who don't like social media because they feel like it's all about you, and people who are Christians say, why would you make a platform all by yourself when you're supposed to share the love of God? But I don't 100% agree with that, because Jesus created us, and he therefore thinks we're extremely important. And so I want you to know that you are important, and the things you care about are important, and you have a voice, and that matters. And I don't want you to ever think that it doesn't matter, because there was a point in my life where I used to think that my voice didn't matter and I should just delete all social media because it's just very vain. And although I think there's definitely a way that we make it vain, I do feel that there's a way we can be the light on social media and use it for a tool, and use it for a way that glorifies God, honors God, and also is just a fun space to be creative. And I think sometimes we just take it out of context. Like, you don't have to always make everything so spiritual. And I just never understood that, where everything has to be about God. No, God gave us a life to enjoy because he cares about us, and he wants us to enjoy things like nature and share tips on how to shop better and save money and so many different things. And so I feel like that is kind of something that I had to come to the conclusion on my own, because I didn't understand if I could even ever be in that space, because I thought I was not following God, if that makes any sense. Okay, so the first thing I also want to start with as well is not putting God in a box. So I'm someone who, I personally do not like being put in a box. I have never liked that. I've never liked when people have labeled me as just something or one thing besides being a Christian, but I've never seen myself, I understand the space of TikTok where people will say you need to have a niche. I personally don't like niches. I don't feel as if I fit just in one category. Yes, I love fitness, but I could never just post all about fitness because there's so much more to my life than fitness. So yes, I love Jesus, but I also don't just want to post about Jesus because there's so many other ways that God is glorified through my life than just when I read my Bible. So that's how I use my social media. I use my social media as just showing and being authentically myself and using it as a tool. So if I find makeup products that I like, I will talk about it. If I find, I go to the grocery store and there's things that I love there and I find fruit and I'm making a beautiful dinner or something, I feel the need that I want to share that because I like to create long form content on YouTube. But obviously everybody has different flavors and different things that they like and things that they like to post, but I don't personally like being put in a box, nor I don't think any of us should really want to be put in a box because God is not put in a box. And I don't think that it should just be one way is one way. I don't know if our identity is supposed to be just in one specific thing, I don't know, fashion, let's just say. We used to get so much hate for showing my fashion style and things like that and the love that I have. I'm just a true girly girl at heart. I love makeup, I love fashion, I love home decor, I love those things, and I love God, and that is okay. And I feel like someone needs to hear that today because I used to think that I had to choose, and that's just not biblical. And God puts those desires in your heart. Is it unbiblical in the way that you use those or idolize those? Absolutely. But again, it isn't unbiblical to desire or want to show other sides of your life that are not just in the church. Coming from someone who's been in the church for about 5 years now, I just feel like that's automatically going to help you to create it's automatically going to take that pressure off of yourself that you don't have to come on here and preach and teach all the time. Is that a role for some and not others? And are we meant to disciple people? Absolutely. But when I'm on my podcast, this is my story. I'm just sharing with you guys things that I love and things that has happened in my life. And I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just I could give you wisdom and I could be you should do this, but at the end of the day, you don't have to answer to me. If you wanted to click off this video and never watch it again, I would never know and I wouldn't be bothered by that. So I think that's going to help you because it used to confuse me when I would be oh, well, I love fashion and I love this, but I also love ministry. And so I used to be so how am I going to do ministry if I love fashion? And so I used to do that all the time. And I'm here to tell you girl, you could do all of it. It isn't about just one thing. Will you have to hone in on one thing? Most likely that God's calling you to, or a specialty that you have, a job that you're going into. Yeah, absolutely. That is usually what makes most sense. But that's not the case for everyone, and we can't speak for everyone because God has a different call for everyone's life. So some are meant to just be mothers and motherhood, and that's the season of the life that they're in, and that's a beautiful role to be in, and that's their job at the moment. Some are meant to be teachers. Some are meant to be pastors. So ministry is everywhere that you go. Ministry is not just in the church. It is so much bigger than that, and it's outside of the four walls of the church. That's how it's supposed to be because we have to be the church. And so that's why your character being developed in these adolescent years are so important because it's about who you are becoming so that you can become a disciple and disciple others wherever you are. I can't tell you how many times I have shared the gospel just at my local grocery store or just on a walk or just by being friendly and having the characteristics and the godly character that I have just from spending time with God. So I think if you want to create a brand that is authentic to you, you have to actually work on yourself first, and you have to seek God, or you're going to want to seek God so that he can expose to you who he created you to be and the things that he has in store for you. And, you know, I think we're in such a time where like there's such an identity crisis. Like people don't know who they are. And I only say that because I didn't know who I was up until like a year ago, because there's so much social media consumption. There's so many different outlets and so much media that we're not able to comprehend, because I don't believe it was meant to be that way. And I think that it's confusing us. It's making us want to not even have a desire to know who we were created to be by God, and it's making us distracted. It's truly making us not spend time with God, the Father, who wants to expose and show you the beautiful things he has in store for you, and he wants to speak to you about he just wants to speak to you about who he is, and he wants you to go through healing and all of these things. So I think that this is so crucial, and this might be different than what you thought. Like these types of tips about branding might be different than what you thought, but I do believe that if you want to create a brand, you're truly just creating yourself, if that makes any sense. You're letting God create you. And that's if you want to be the most authentic. Like you could tomorrow start posting anything you want, but is it truly going to be authentic to you? And I think that's the most content that we are gravitated towards, is authenticity, vulnerability, being ourselves. I think personally that's what I gravitate towards watching. I'm like, wow, that person's just like shining. They're just glowing. They're, you know, like living their best life. They're being themselves. Like, how are they so free? Like to me, I see someone free when they're living that way. So I'd say the first thing is don't put yourself in a box. And I think that would really be a good first start. Second tip I have is your brand is your resume. So what I mean by that is like when you go on LinkedIn and you're submitting a resume, you are putting out there something that you're proud of. Like you're not gonna put out that you go to the bar and that you drink and you do these things. However, I truly believe that the next form of resume is your brand, and it is your social media platforms. Whether that's unfortunately or fortunately, I think it can work in a lot of people's favors, but I also think it can work in a lot of people's disfavor because of what they're posting and what they're doing and how they're living. And so, for example, like you don't want to be someone who is faking putting out something on their resume, like you do this, that, like you like to go for walks or you like to garden and blah, blah. And then you're not living a true life that represents that. And then the person who's looking for you goes on your Instagram and all she sees is that you dance on tabletops and you shake your butt and you like pour drinks down your throat. Now she's not going to take you as serious, and your brand and your image is ruined. And so you have to take that into consideration because that is what matters. Like that matters a lot. And that matters a lot to your character. I mean, I want you guys to be so careful before you go to post anything. I always have to do this and I always have to check this. I'm not perfect at this. I'm not saying I am. I've had my fair share of mistakes and things, but we want to be very cautious about what we're posting and putting out there on the internet forever. I feel like our generation is just so careless with that sometimes. I feel like we just like post whatever comes to our mind, and I'm not saying that that's bad, because I totally believe in that to a certain degree, but I don't believe in it when it's not working in your favor, and you have to, like, you're gonna have to look back and be like, like that's so cringy. Like, why did I post that like thirst trap? Or why did I post myself shaking my butt like that? Because it's just not cute, and I don't mean to say that in a rude way. Like, I'm truly trying to be more like your bigger sister. Like, don't do the mistakes that I went through. Like, I used to like hang my butt and my body out the window door, like, you know? And I just think you have to be careful, because when you're gonna go on a resume or you're gonna go do something like that, people aren't gonna take you as serious. And so I feel like as you're like developing in those areas, you want to also be developing your character and then aligning that together. Like, you don't wanna be a fraud, you don't wanna be a fake, don't live a double life. Like, don't post that you're gonna be this and then, you know, you're getting hammered all night long. That doesn't honor God, and it honestly does nothing good for you. And so I feel like once I stopped doing that and living a double life, I literally felt so free. I feel so free. I feel when I face someone face to face, I'm truly just who I say I am. Like, what you see is what you get, but that takes work, and I understand that it isn't always easy, but that's really, really going to help your personal brand. You're not going to feel like a hypocrite. Like, you have to face the things that you're doing in your life, and if you want to change, you'll take this. If you don't, you might have clicked off the video. I don't know, but yeah. You know, the true meaning of someone who follows God is somebody who lives out the Bible. And I think reading the Bible is so different than the way that we live. And I didn't understand that until I started reading the Bible, that there were things I was doing that weren't honoring God. And I would say I believed in God, but I wasn't doing things that made him, I wasn't doing things that he was saying in his book that made sense to me. I wasn't following his ways because I didn't know him, and I didn't know that he loved me. Like, you know, I feel like we too also have to give people grace. Like, I didn't understand that he loved me so much that it wasn't just a book of rules. It was something to protect me. I didn't know that like sleeping with someone before marriage was like a bad thing. I mean, I thought that everybody else does it, so why, you know, what's so wrong about it? Until I read the Bible, and I read that the Lord created sex to be within the bounds of marriage, and for you to share that with one person for the rest of your life in marriage, like in case you guys got pregnant or in case whatever. And it wasn't meant for everybody to just sleep around. Like, that's not normal. But unfortunately, in this life, it is normalized. And so that's why we're living in end times. Like, truly, the Bible says that we will live in a time that is called good, and evil will be called good, and good will be called evil. And I truly do believe that we're living in those times of the book of Revelations, it says in the Bible, because the society, we see what's happening around us, and everything's just so normalized. So of course people are going to be like, well, that's normal. I did the same thing. I was like, well, you know, that's normal. And so you might be wondering, like, how does this go with branding? Well, because building a personal brand is building who you are. And you could share all of these things, but why would we want to share things that don't align with Christ anyways? Do you know what I mean? So that's another little tip on, I think, just living authentically to who God calls us to be. It's going to set you free. I don't have anxiety from, you know, I live a double life, or I do these things anymore. And the truth is sin feels good, but it only feels good for a moment, and then it gets snatched away from you, and there's shame and there's guilt, and it's just because it's the enemy's tactics. It's the devil's tactics, and God has came to set us free from that because he loves us so much. So how do you start a personal brand? I said, be yourself and show up online the same way that you are in person. It's truly all about being authentic. So before you focus so much on posting your life and figuring out who you are, you could start a personal relationship with Jesus, because he is going to show you who you are and what your identity is and who your identity is, because he created you, and he created you to do something wonderful on this side of earth. You have to stand up for what you believe in, and this can be hard, because I know that it was for me, because the Bible is not necessarily popular. If we look at the world and the way that the world lives, we can see that it's polar opposite to the Bible's ways and to God's teachings. For example, people being together before they're married. I just talked about that because it's what society has made normal, because we were living in those days, and I truly believe that. So you want to get to know the ways of God. So we want to get to know the ways that God calls us to live and stand for them as an example to others. So I just think that that's just so important, because, and I kind of just touched on that. Social media is a tool. I totally believe that. And I believe that a way that I've let people in my life is by building a community, by engaging with my audience. And that can be in so many different forms, whether it's through Instagram or TikTok, whichever platform, you know, you want to use it, YouTube. And I truly do think it's just about showing up and not caring about what people think, and showing up for what you believe in. I just kind of talked about what we should believe in, but showing up in that manner and not caring about what people think. Because at the end of the day, do I want to let all the opinions of other people stop the destiny that God has over my life just because I'm a little bit scared of looking funny or sounding different or making funny mannerisms or messing up. Would I really want to make that sabotage the calling and the blessings that God has over my life? Obviously, the answer is no, but how many of us do that, including myself? Because I feel like that's all that I ever would do. I truly would just self-sabotage myself because I was just focused so much on what other people were going to think of me, what people were going to say about me, how they were going to interpret me, like I'm never going to get it out right. And the truth is I am not perfect. So I'm not here to claim that I'm a theologian. Like I'm not here to claim that I know everything about the Bible, nor do I have to, because I'm just letting you guys in on my story. And this is my story. And I just tell you guys what I've learned and how it interprets my life and how it's changed my life for the better. And I truly believe that if I didn't do that, if I didn't come to that point, I don't think social media would ever be a healthy place for me, because you're just looking to please the opinions of other people. And that is not what we're here to do. So once you get to the root of that and you really, really start to do things out of your comfort zone, and you start to do things that don't allow you to want to stay small or stay hidden or not voice your opinion and things like that, that's when you're going to start to thrive on social media, because you're going to actually be able to be yourself. And you don't want to be on social media and become someone else, because that's never actually you being authentic, because we're obviously all about authenticity and vulnerability, and we don't want to be other people. You want to be exactly who God has called you to be. You want to be exactly yourself. You want to feel yourself. You want to do things that you would do. And I feel like that is a good way to start, is just by engaging with your audience and not allowing the opinions of other people to hold you back. Another tip is being comfortable in your own skin. And I remember for the longest time, it started when I was in college. I started to do things on my own. I would branch away from my girls and the soccer group that I would hang out with. I remember it being definitely strange because I personally always had a ton of friends, so I did things all the time with people. And I also was really codependent on my mom because we grew up and I was really close to her. And kind of at every waking moment, I would just like call my mom if I needed something. And not that that's a bad thing, but it can be, because then you're just totally codependent on someone else and you don't actually learn the true art of independence. And sometimes you just have to fail. Like you have to fall on your face to be able to learn. You have to make that bank statement call and sound stupid to be able to learn how to do it. Or you have to go to the store by yourself even if you feel really awkward because you're by yourself, and you just have to push through that uncomfortableness, because it's just like anything else. The more you practice, the better you get. So I will say though, it's a very freeing feeling on the other side. I know that people can experience maybe anxiousness around doing things by themselves, or they just don't feel comfortable at all, but I truly know how that feels. And I will say, and I'm a testimony to say, once you start doing it, you start to feel so good. Like you feel like you can take care of yourself, and there's like no better feeling than that like you've got you. And I feel like it's just a sign of growing up and maturing and not just doing everything with a group. And I do feel like sometimes you have to take it upon yourself. Like you might have to be like, I'm gonna go and do this by myself. Like I don't, I feel like there's times where you could like call a friend and be like, hey, like, can you come with me here? Like whatever, I want to be with someone. But try to push yourself out of your comfort zone and try to do things alone. It actually is very freeing, and you might be surprised how much you like it. I remember the first time I took myself out on like a date, like before I had a boyfriend. And sometimes even though I have a boyfriend, I still do that because I never want to get too like dependent on the fact that I need Nick, or I need like obviously I need Nick. I do tell him that all the time. I'm like, I need you and like you're my rock. But I do feel like, obviously you have to be okay being on your own. And I truly don't think it's healthy if you're not okay being on your own. But I do believe there's steps to get towards it. And I know that because I did that. And so I would just go to little places like I would get ice cream by myself, and I would, maybe I'd call a friend like at first, or FaceTime my mom or something, so you're not so uncomfortable. But yeah, go get ice cream by yourself, or go like book a little like workout by yourself, or something like that. Something that's gonna like put you out of your comfort zone, but it's like not a huge step first. Like I'm thinking of another thing, like I've gone to events or weddings and stuff like that completely by myself, and I feel like that wouldn't be the best scenario to start at, because you might be like really overwhelmed and like really socially awkward. But I know for me, like I always like will overdo like the situation. Like God tells us not to worry, but like how many of us worry, I have to catch myself and be like, don't like self-sabotage the situation that hasn't even happened yet. Like why would I even put that out there? You want to start thinking positive things, like, oh, okay, like I'll meet a friend and like I'll sit with her and it'll be okay, or I'll have stuff to talk about. Like try not to think so negative about the situation before it happens. Try to put out in faith, that God's going to provide someone to be sitting there with you that you'll talk to at the wedding, or, you'll have stuff in common. Use your personality, use your gifts, use your kindness. That's what I do when I go to places by myself. I just use my personality, ask questions. I feel like the easiest way to get along with people, because I could literally talk to a brick wall, but I've learned how to do this. Like I didn't just wake up one day and learn how to communicate effectively. I've worked at it very hard. And it's just about being genuine, number one, caring, which, I mean, it has to come from the heart, but you just have to like care. I mean, I truly care about people. So like when you see them, you just like ask, like I'll be like, oh my gosh, your shirt's so cute, like where'd you get it? But I feel like a good little icebreaker when you're with people is like ask them questions and be interested. Be like, oh my gosh, like I love your necklace, like where'd you get it? And then you guys kind of start a conversation, and it's not as scary as it thinks. And I just want you to know that everyone probably feels the same way that you do. But if you want to build your brand and you want to be a confident woman and things like that, it's so important to date yourself and to be okay being by yourself. So being comfortable in your own skin is only going to benefit you. So those are some tips I have for that. I also would serve in my community, like doing things alongside of people really helped me. I started to get to know myself by journaling. I used to, I still do, I don't know why I'm saying it like it's in the past, but I journal because I like to get to know myself, and I will talk to myself as if it's just like me and myself. So I'll be like to Vanessa, like, good morning, like I'll be like, good morning, I'm having a good morning. Or I journal to God all the time. And I journal to myself. Writing things down that are really going to help you get to know yourself is writing a list of things that remind you of you and things that excite you. So, for example, I love flowers. I just made a flower bouquet the other day because I love them. So I would write down like I love farmers markets and flowers, and that's a way to get to know yourself. So that when you have some spare time, you're like, oh, okay, like I know that I like this about myself, I'm gonna go do this. It sounds kind of self-explanatory, but I know sometimes people can struggle with this topic, because I know I used to. Doing weekly check-ins with yourself, like how are you feeling? Journaling how you're feeling and things like that. Trying new workouts or food ideas. Food is a big one, because I feel like so much our culture is like surrounded around food. So cooking or trying a new dish or trying new food or going to a new restaurant is really going to help you to just like get to know yourself better. Do things that make you get to know yourself better. And then another thing I would write out on a piece of paper is, who do I want to be? Like you could literally put at the top, like, who does Vanessa want to be? Who does blank, fill your name, want to be? And don't think of maybe a specific person, although, I mean, I have role models. I feel like today's culture is very copycatish, like everybody copies one another and like tries to become that person, which loses your identity. But try to embody yourself as the best version of yourself. And what does she look like? What does she feel like? What does she smell like? What does she sound like in faith? Like, you have to, in faith, God tells us to live in faith. So like envision that person and the emotions that she would feel, even if you're not feeling that right now. So say you're like going through literal heartbreak, like you just had a heartbreak with someone, you are down in the dumps, you're in school and you just failed an exam, you don't have a job, like it doesn't make sense. I've been there in all of those situations. you have to just see yourself just a little bit higher, like just a little. Like it doesn't have to be where you're like a millionaire and you have all the right things going for you. Like it's not just about that. You have to be able to get into the habit of, okay, this isn't going well. You know what? I trust you, God, that you have my back. I trust you, God. Remember the emotions you feel when you are in that state, like almost like exclude yourself from the state of being you're in, but you're still in the same situation and you see yourself higher. It's hard to do, but this is what this is how he calls us to live. He calls us to live in faith. And faith is believing in the things that we hope for that we don't see. So if we can get to that point, and you can train your brain to continually do that in life, when things go wrong, you're not going to feel so shocked by it. You're just going to, I'm not saying I still struggle with this. Like the other month I left my job and I didn't have a job and I was like, okay, like God, I have faith, but I'm kind of like also having fear at the same time. But I just continued every day. Even if I didn't feel it, I was like, I'm going to get a job. It's going to happen. God sees it. God has my back. Like all things are working out for good, for my greater good. Like he's for me, not against me. And then I got a job. And so it's like, then once the thing happens, you're like, why did I worry at all? But we have such a sin nature to want to worry. And I just advise you to learn how to like get your body out of that and to think higher. So do the same thing with yourself. If you right now are super inactive, you don't work out, you don't know where to start, you are liking everything I'm saying, but you don't even know where to begin, truly just begin by faith and prayer and be like, okay, I see myself in a higher state. I see the girl that I want to be. I want to be fit. I want to be kinder. I want to be more understanding to people, more compassionate. I want to be, more fit, and I want to learn how to cook, things like that, things that seem true to you, or things like that are going to make you feel happier and healthier. Envision yourself that way and then become that version of yourself. And this is also another topic I want to dive into. There's nothing more beautiful than you being you. There's nothing more beautiful than who you truly are. And I do believe that it is a journey to get there. Like, I just want to be open with you guys. I used to be so obsessed with my appearance that it was literally all that consumed me. And I know that that can sound vain because it was vain. And the thing is I didn't understand, for a while why I was the way that I was. And I also had struggled with hating the way that I was. But you know what? It wasn't my fault. And it's not your fault. It's probably not your fault. The things that have happened to you in life are most likely not your fault, but it is your responsibility to deal with them and to deal with the trauma that has happened to you. And you can even be angry about the things that people said about you and the things like that, but it is your responsibility to let that go, to forgive for yourself, because you deserve it, because God and Jesus, He died for you to be set free from yourself. And until I learned that, I truly think I was living in chains. And I think it is so important for you to know that when you are going through a healing process, you are going to face some things that are going to hurt and feel ugly and almost like you don't want to face them about yourself, like it's uncomfortable, but that's when the true healing begins. And so I had to face the fact that, whether someone calls you higher or you and God just have a private moment where you're like, okay, like, yeah, I've struggled with this. Like, I had to tell Him, like, in private time, like, God, I feel like all I do is like obsess with how I look. I mean, I didn't have to tell Him. It was just the way it consumed my life. Like, it truly can sound silly, but I know I'm not the only one who struggles with this. Like, I feel like I wouldn't be able to go anywhere if like nothing was perfect. Like, or I would just like start to like see my hair in a way, and I was like, I don't know if it was OCD, but I was like, I don't like how this looks. Like, it would like ruin my day. Like, it was like not healthy. And it's one thing to care about your hair and your nails and your makeup, and like that's where I'm at. Obviously, I love that stuff. But it has to be in a healthy way, because God cares about how we look, and He wants us to dress, honorably and beautiful and feel good. Like, I feel amazing when I take care of myself, and He wants everybody to do that. But when it consumes you and it's an obsession and it's all that you think about and it's all that you care about, whatever it is. It could be beauty, it could be intelligence, school, grades. It's what you're putting your identity into is going to fail you, because what happens when you age and you get wrinkles? Like, you don't want to look like a plastic doll. Like, even if you did, it's not like that's really healthy. And yeah, there's band-aids for stuff, but why would we want to live a life in bondage and band-aids when we can live a life of freedom? And I think it's just about being humble and facing it and knowing that it's okay. So I just share, like, where I used to struggle with my appearance. When I got to the root of it, it was also because when I was in high school and I was in college and I was in these adolescent years in middle school, you know, there were so many traumatic events that happened in my life. That was why I was doing the things that I was doing and believing the things I was believing. So, like, for me in high school, you know, I was picked on. I was bullied for my grades. A lot of people around me just constantly said that I was stupid. I was put label over label, like, you're dumb, your GPA sucks, you're stupid, oh, you're just pretty, oh yeah, you're not good for anything. I even had a teacher tell me one time that I wasn't going to amount to anything, that I wasn't going to graduate college. They told my parents they told my parents that I should just not go to college because I'm not smart enough and I'll probably struggle the rest of my life in school. And because I heard that so repetitively, I started to believe it about myself. So my friends would pick on me and tell me that I wasn't smart, or they'd make little jokes, you know, behind my back. And I just remember the pain I would feel, but I would never stand up for myself because I didn't believe that I was smart. I truly started to believe the lies that people said about me. That's why it's so important for you not to come into agreement and not to believe things just because people say it to you. It doesn't mean it's true, and 9 times out of 10, it's not true. And your identity does not come from people. It comes from who Jesus says you are. So that really stunted my confidence, and it made me think that the only thing I was good for was the way that I looked. My body, my appearance, my face, my, like, I don't know, just because I noticed in school that the guys liked me for the way that I looked, I thought that I wasn't gonna amount to anything else. So I never thought and took value to the fact that I was a really sweet and kind girl. Like, I used to sit with the kids who had, you know, the kids who were special needs. I remember, like, I truly used to sit with them because I just cared about them. Like, I loved them. And, you know, I never, like, saw myself for the beautiful heart that I had. I only would just, like, criticize and pick myself apart because, you know, oh, like, I don't look good enough. I don't look good enough, because it became an obsession. It became my everything. It became all that I relied on. And so it was like, if I had a pimple or my hair wasn't perfect, well, that was it, because I wasn't, it's not like I had anything else to, like, lean on, like, oh, I'm smart, or, well, I'm, you know, beautiful because of who I am, which is what we should put our beauty in. It became something really, really, really dangerous to my life. And it caused so much unnecessary stress, and perfectionism had to be broken. God had to help me not to be like that. And these are things I work on every day, but I have been delivered. I fully believe in deliverance. Like, Jesus delivered me from so many of these chains, and I'm totally new. And I cannot wear makeup. Like, I don't, you know, my hair doesn't always have to be done. Like, I can color it. Like, it's just not as serious because I know who I am in Christ, and I know who I am is the most important thing about me. But it takes work to get there, because I know, because it's not easy. But I think when you acknowledge this, it really is so freeing. It's just a very freeing feeling, and it's really going to help you to become who God has called you to be. I want you girls to truly believe who Jesus has called you to be, because I know if he can do it with me, he can do it with you. And I was bad. Like, you guys need to talk to my friends. Like, I was bad. Like, you could talk to my mom. And I don't mean like I was a bad person. I mean, I was so obsessed. Like, I was like so hard on myself. Like I was way too critical of myself, highly, highly aware of like my flaws. Like I would notice like those like little things like in myself, like, you know, and so, you know, that is just like at the core sometimes that became into this root of like self-hatred. Like I would do things out of actually hating myself instead of loving myself. And it was really dark and it was really like scary because I was trying so hard to love myself, but I didn't love myself. I was being a different person. I didn't know who I was. Like it was very confusing. And I also think that social media can make it very confusing because there's so much to be consumed, and I don't think we're meant to consume all of that. I don't truly believe that you're meant to consume and sit on your phone and scroll and compare your life or your appearance to every person you look at. It's not meant to be that way. But unfortunately, because we live in that world, that is the way that it is right now, and that's what people think is normal. But that's what I mean about standing up for what you believe in and not giving in to the distraction or the devil, because you don't feel good after that anyways. And it's just trying to rob you of your joy and your peace. John 10:10, the enemy comes to kill, steal, and destroy, but I have come to give life and life abundantly. So God has come to try to give us this life abundantly, to set us free to live every day a lifestyle of godly character and freedom. But we have to be aware of the distractions of the enemy and the things that he's going to try to come at us with. And the enemy's very sneaky. He's going to try to come at you and hit you hard with the things that you kind of care about the most. So try to always remember that, like the things you care about the most is what the enemy will try to hit you with. And the more you get closer to Jesus, the more you'll be able to hear God's voice and be able to hear and know and discern things better. So I want you also to know that God is always fighting for you. Jesus was always fighting on my behalf. Although I was, you know, wrapped up in vanity and all I cared about was beauty and my appearance, he was always fighting for me, telling me that I was so much more than what I looked like. He was always fighting for me, putting people in my life to tell me that I am a beautiful person inside, and that's what matters. And your heart is big, and you're smart, and you're intelligent, everything aside from beauty. And he was there to show me that the way you look is the least interesting thing about you. Like, yes, people are gifted with the gift of beauty. If the Lord gifts you with that and you're born that way, you know, use it for the kingdom. Use it for God. We all have gifts. Some are good at dancing. Some are good at painting or teaching, whatever. We all have different things. But yes, if you're blessed with, you know, nice hair or nice eyelashes, like, use it for God, however that makes sense to you. Like, try to use your beauty for good. Try to treat people with kindness. Treat people the way that God would want us to. That's what makes you beautiful. I promise you, because I've been on both sides. And the most beautiful thing about anything, you guys, like when I feel the most beautiful is when I am not thinking about myself. It is when I'm thinking of you, or I'm thinking of others, and I'm helping people. Like, that is when I feel the most beautiful. I kid you not, makeup and all, the nails, take all of it. Like even if I have my nails on and I have makeup on and stuff, I feel the most beautiful when I'm serving other people, when I'm putting other people's needs before my own, and when I am full, that I can pour to people, and when I choose to give people encouragement, or I go out of my way to pray for somebody, or I make somebody a flower bouquet, or I just simply, you know, enjoy the company of friends and us eating together, or, you know, making things not just about yourself, but making it about other people, and just being a kind person, being someone with a motive where, like, I actually want you to succeed, and I want you to do well, and I'm not envious, and I want you to just be like, I want you to flourish. Like, I've never felt more beautiful than then. Like, I don't find validation anymore from somebody just telling me that I look good. And that's crazy, because that was my whole life. Like, I used to care so much about when somebody would just say like you're hot or like you look good. But I don't need that anymore. I don't need people to point that out. I honestly, when someone says that, I'm not even as like moved. Like, it's nice, but I'd literally rather prefer someone be like, I love your personality, like you're so funny, or I love the way you, I don't know, like treat people. Like, to me, that means so much more because I find that beautiful. And that's when I feel the most beautiful. And think about Jesus. Like, Jesus came here on earth to serve people, but he was a king. Like, he could have done anything he wanted to. He could have made everybody serve him, but he washed people's feet. Like, he was so humble. Like, that's who he was. Like, that's beauty. That is what makes Jesus proud. He does not care about if your hair is, you know, the perfect whatever. Like, if your hair doesn't look like that, like, you don't have to perform for him. And I don't mean to say he doesn't care about your hair color. Like, he will, I pray, like, God, please help me, like, get the right hair color, like, to feel good in my skin. But that's not where your confidence should come from. It should come from him inside of you, the person that you are. And then being content with who you are. Be content with what he's given you, with the way that you look, with the things that you do, with the mind that you have. Be content with it. Like, it doesn't have to be that you always are looking for someone else. And that was my life. Like, I always was searching and searching for the next thing, for the better promotion, for, you know, I got the shirt. Okay, now I have to get another shirt. Or I just got my hair done. Okay, I have to get a spray tan. Now I have to get this. Now I have to get that. Like enough has to be enough. And I'm not saying, again, that like you can't get beauty treatments. I get beauty treatments. I get my nails done. I get facials. I love that stuff. Like, a Proverbs 31 woman is clothed in garments of silk. It says that, but it doesn't mean that that's your obsession. And that like, you can't, like, if you can't live without it, then it is most likely an idol. And so try to think of it that way. Like, well, if I had to go without, would I be okay? And I'm still working on that to this day. Like, again, like, you guys are on a journey with me. I'm constantly dying to these things. Like, I have to check myself every day. Like, it's not something that always is just like, okay, God, like, I'm glad I'm over here. But there are certain things in my life where I, you know, like, I used to wear blue contacts because, you know, I wanted to just like take away the way that my eyes looked because I didn't like them. Acceptance is going to be so big for you. It's going to help you so much. And asking God to help you see yourself the way that he sees you was a prayer I prayed every day, is a prayer I still pray every day, because it's true. Prayer works. And so if you can pray that over yourself, he will meet you where you're at, and he will show you how kind and how beautiful, and he'll show you the flowers in your heart. Like, he truly will. And I know there's so much like comparison and things like that, but that is not God's best for you. And if you're comparing daily and you're looking at someone else's life being like, I want that, I wish this isn't enough for me, I'm here to tell you that God wants to set you free from that, like he set me free. And there's such a beautiful feeling from being set free from just the way that you look. I'm going to tell you guys a little story before I kind of end the video, and the podcast, but this is a story that truly changed my life because I didn't realize the impact the work that God has been doing in me has like impacted people until I took a step back and I like really looked around me and I was like, wow, like, how could I ever just think that I was pretty? Like, how could I think there was nothing else to me? And it's funny because God uses the things that you struggle with the most and the things that you're inadequate with to show his adequacy, because he wants to show his glory. So it's just so funny. So one time it was my junior year of college. I torn my ACL for the second time. It was like the worst time of my life. Like, I truly felt like I was just like losing it. I'm like, this sucks. Like, you know, it was just like down in the dumps. And there was this specific appointment I had to go to. I believe it was post-operation. So I had an appointment that I had to go from my house to Bay State. It was like 20 minutes. I don't know. I was late, like, of course. And my sister brought me. I remember we were like rushing. And so we're like in the parking lot. Literally, I think I was like 25 minutes late to this appointment. My sister's like, they're probably not going to take you. And I was like, I know, but like, let's just try to go. Like, give me grace. I'm on crutches. So I'm crutching in, and this is when like my relationship with God is really strong. Even though I was going through such a difficult time, I was leaning on God trying to find the light in it. Like, I look back and I was like, I was so like optimistic. Like, I give myself so much credit because I was so optimistic despite all of the setbacks I had been through. This was my second ACL surgery. I had lost a lot of friends. Like, you know, I was doing the best that I can, and I believe God saw that. And so I'm crutching, and my sister's ahead of me. And I look to my left and I see this girl in the parking lot, and she's bawling her eyes out in her car with her dad and mom in the back. And I heard the voice of the Lord, and I heard a voice or a thought in my head that was like, go up to her because she just tore her ACL and I want you to connect with her. I want you to help her. But you guys, I was 25 minutes late to my appointment. My sister wanted to kill me. I remember the look on her face. She was first of all, she was so embarrassed because I do this with her all the time. Like, when I'm out, I just like talk to people and she just like stands there. She's like, you are so weird. And I'm like, I know, but like, I just like care and I want to help. She's like, yeah, I know, but like, this is so awkward. But so like I literally crutch. I'm on crutches. Like, this is out of a movie. And I knock on this girl's window and the window rolls down and I'm like, I go, hi, my name's Vanessa. I know you don't know me and you probably think I'm weird and I'm sorry that I'm invading you bawling your eyes out. I said, but did you just tear your ACL? And she was like, yeah, like what? How did you know that? And I was just like, listen, God works in mysterious ways. I said, here's my number. I'm really late to my appointment, but text me if you need anything. I know how it feels. Like, I'm going to help you get through it. I know it's scary. I was like, just text me anything you need to know. And she was like, okay. And then I crutched away. And then like literally, like I remember like I don't think she texted me that day, but the day after she was like, hi, like my name is Sophia. Like, and then I answered her and I sent her, like, she must have thought I was just like crazy, but no, she like loves me. But she was like, I sent her this like fat, like long message. And it was just like, okay, so this is what you're going to want to do. Like, after you tear ACL, like I just feel like the things I go through, I have such deep compassion for people because I've experienced like so much pain in my life that like, I don't want people to ever experience the pain that I felt. So I will do anything I can to try to help them. And that is what God has done in my heart. And I didn't know that that was one of the most beautiful things about me until I started dating Nick, because he would point it out to me. And he would be like, you're way too hard on yourself. Like, you don't realize how beautiful you are. And so I only say this to say, like, first of all, I know there's people out there who have just as much beautiful hearts and things like that, that you don't think to go to and to think that's why you're pretty or beautiful. Like, the first thing we think to go to is like what we look like. I mean, I looked terrible. Like, who cares? Like, I don't know what I looked like. I had my hair in a bun. I probably hadn't washed my face or showered in 3 days. But like, see, that's not what matters. Like, it doesn't, does she remember how I looked, or does she remember how I made her feel? And when you're on your deathbed, let me just say, when you go to pass away, people are not going to remember what you wore or the things that you had in your closet, or, oh my gosh, you had a really cool wardrobe. They're going to remember who you were and how you impacted their lives and how you made them feel. They're not going to remember what you looked like on your day-to-day. That's not what's important. What's important is what you're doing in life, how you're making them feel, how you treat people, and showing up for them. And so I say that to say, this girl, like, fast forward, we're good friends, and she's 4 years younger than me. She calls me her big sister. She loves God. She's been learning about who He is through me, and God's using me in her life. And, you know, she really needed me. Like, she needed the gifts that God has put inside of me. And she needed a big sister. And because of our obedience, because of my obedience, because of, you know, because of what we are able to, what God wants to do through us, He's able to get the glory because of when we say yes to Him. Like, I know fear could have stopped me from going up to her car and being uncomfortable, but I can't even imagine like letting that stop me. And maybe God would have found a way for us to meet another way. But I always look back to that situation when I'm ever in a position to be scared, because I'm like, but the impact I made on her life. And I want to even fast track a little bit more. I'm really only sharing this, like, I'm not here to boast about myself. I'm sharing this because I truly feel like it's going to show you like there's so many times that I believe that you have impacted people's lives, and you might not realize how much it can affect your life in a positive way. Because I was always someone who was really hard on myself, and I never saw the beauty inside me until I took a step back and I was like, wow. And this situation really changed my life. Like she says I changed her life, but she changed my life. And it makes me want to get emotional, but I was at her graduation party the other day, and her dad was there, and I went up to them, you know, after, just to say bye. I went for a little bit, and he looked at me, and he had, you know, he was like with his buddies, and I'll never forget this in my life. But, you know, he had tears in his eyes, and he was like, sorry, I don't mean to cry. Oh my, I'm so emotional. I cried everything. But he looked at me and he was like, I didn't think I would cry, but he was like, I can't thank this girl enough. He was telling his friend, he said, this girl is my daughter's angel. He said, no, you saved my daughter's life. He was like, if it wasn't for you, like, she doesn't have her mom in her life. Like, you know, you really helped her through difficult times, and you've shown up for her. And I just say that because, like, sorry, how could we ever think that, like, we don't matter, you know, like, or just like you're just worthy because, like, you're pretty. Like, there's so much more to you than the way you look. And I say that because I know it's true in my life, and I used to only care about, like, what I looked like, but God fought for me so hard, and I don't deserve it, but he'll fight for you too, because he loves you, and he knows your heart. And truly, there's no better feeling. I can't tell you how I felt when he said that. Like, I just felt like, you know, all the kindness, you know, people can be so mean. Like, I have experienced a lot of mean things happen to me that have made me want to go cold and be mean to people and rude because of the hate that I have received from just I don't know, just over life. And, you know, we all go through that, and we want to be so angry and spiteful, but this situation always will remind me to never do back to what people do to you, because you'll miss out on moments like this father speaking to me saying, you are my daughter's angel. You really helped save her life. And I said, no, God saved her life, but yes, I did choose to help her because I love him. And he's just like, it's unbelievable. Like, all I can say is thank you, you know? So I just say all that to say, you know, building your brand, like, building your brand is really just building you. Building your brand is really just about building you and building who you are and becoming who God has called you to be. And then it's about sharing that. And so I can kind of go into some like literal tips that have helped me, but I do believe that it's about getting to know yourself in the freest form, and then using social media as a tool. So, you know, there's so many outlets you could do, like YouTube vlogs, you could do Instagram, video reels, but you have to be able to show up authentically yourself, or else it really won't matter. And another thing too that I see a lot is a lot of copycats, like a lot of people who are very confused and don't know themselves copy other people. Like, I know I used to do this in high school when I had no idea who I was. I would just see someone else and I would see what works for them. So I would like immediately just want to embody and become that person because it worked for them. And there's a huge difference between influence and inspiration. I'm going to say that again. There's a huge difference between being influenced and being inspired by someone. And I feel like in this generation, because it's just so much consumption, I don't even think it's necessarily our own fault. I think it's society. We just choose to see what works for other people. And I feel like we almost like put on their life. Like we step in their shoes and we try to be them. And then essentially you become a counterfeit. Like, you become a copycat and you become someone who is just pretending to be someone else. And that's not going to make you feel close to your identity or be you at all. That's going to push you so far on the other side that you're going to not end up knowing who you are, because I used to do this as well. And so I'm telling you, the only truest way you can get to know yourself is through Jesus. Like, he is going to show you who he is, because it's because he created you. So like, imagine you're like painting a painting, and you do the whole painting, and somebody is like, wow, this is a beautiful painting. Like, what is the painting? But they're asking everyone around them, what is this painting? Like, what does this mean? Like, what is this beautiful little stroke that this, I love this, the way that it looks like, what does this mean? But nobody can answer because they didn't create the painting. But then the person who actually created the painting says, oh, I created this. Oh, this is what this means. I made this stroke here because of this, or because, well, I made it like this. That's Jesus to us. You can't fully know who you are yet if you don't know Jesus, because he created you. And like, if you don't know who created you, how are you ever going to know why you are the way you are, or why you won't know. So you have to go back to the creator. You're the masterpiece. He's the creator. You're the clay. He's the potter. Like, he's the one who shows us why he made us this way. And he makes no flaws. He makes no mistakes. So I think that's going to really help you get to be able not to copy people, because I know for me too, I also notice this. I'm very quick to see who copies me, and I know when someone's copying me because I have discernment, and like, I just think I can see it. I pray for them, because I know that it's when you're copying someone. I'm telling you this because I used to do this. It's actually a form of insecurity. It's a form of not knowing yourself and lack of spending time with yourself, that you think that you can just be someone else. And it's not okay, and it's also not going to help you. The truth is you don't want to be someone else, because there's only one you. And why would you want to be someone else when there's parts of you that nobody else could ever be? Like, that is the coolest thing ever. Like, nobody has your fingerprint. Nobody has the things that you have. Like, why would we want to be other people when we could just be us, who God created? And I know it seems so hard to get to, but I'm telling you, when you get on the other side of the healing and that stuff, there's so much beauty you find in yourself, that God created a masterpiece, and you start to truly believe those things about yourself, and it really, really will set you free from copying or wanting to put on someone else's life or put on someone else's hair or their identity. God would have created you to want to be someone else. He would have. Once you know who you are, it's very easy to translate. You don't want to be someone else, because you'll never ever bear the fruit or the benefit that God has for you, and the oil that he has over your life, and the things he has created and destined for you before even time was a thing. And the truth is he has a wonderful, wonderful plan for your life, and he has things that only you can attain here and no one else. And that's why you don't want to be someone else. And completely honest, you'll be at the benefit of losing all of that if you start to copy someone else's life. It'll never be as fruitful as you think. And yes, maybe it'll work for a little bit. You'll find happiness, pretending to be like someone else, but you will never attain that joy. The happiness will always be fleeting, because again, you will never be able to bear the actual fruit that God has ordained over your life. And you want favor from God. You want that from him. Once you know who you are, it's easy to translate that to media, because making a brand out of it is just being you and learning the techniques of social media, which I feel like a lot of us do know how. You can show up free, and you can start to utilize your natural gifts. And something that you're already good at is something that I always say to people, like, if they're like, well, I don't even know like where to begin, like, what are the things that you're naturally already good at? Like, what attributes are you good at? So for me, like, I love health and nutrition. Like, that's something that I'm not a theologist. Again, I don't have a doctorate in it, but I'm very knowledgeable on it, and it's something I totally could help people. I love to mentor people. I love makeup and fashion, and I have a marketing degree. So that's something that I'm really good at. I'm an effective communicator. And so, those are just things about myself. But what is it about you that like you're good at? And let it be okay if it's different than someone else. This has nothing to do with anyone except you and God. And then when you're sharing social media, I've noticed when you make it about other people, like you make it others focused, it is so much more fulfilling. So like when you go to make a post, you want to make the post about how can I help someone today? Like what can I link for someone that's going to help them? Like it's not always just about you, like not what I like, but how can I actually like help someone else with this? Like how can I share and be vulnerable about something in my life that's going to help them? And that's very fulfilling. So, you know, use it in that way. Use it to like glorify God's stuff. Like, I don't know, I use it, like I love nature, I love flowers, like I post those things because I just love them. Like, what do you love, you know? And if you want it to be purposeful, like then I would work on making it about other people. You're not always going to be everybody's cup of tea. I feel like that is how it should be. That rhymes, but you're not always going to be everybody's cup of tea, but that's okay. You don't want to be everybody's cup of tea. You're not you're not here to please other people. You're not here to be their cup of tea. You're here to be yourself. And the people that God brings into your life because of that, that's amazing. If the people, you know, if people watch you and they click off and don't want to watch your video, that's okay too. I mean, sometimes we're just not everybody's flavor, and that's okay. Like, there's people that I don't watch. I don't have anything against them. I just don't like the way that they film stuff. Like, it's just the content. I don't like it. Like, that's just my opinion. But that doesn't mean that God doesn't have a mission for them and for other people to watch them or to digest the content they have. So just keep that in mind, that you don't have to like worry about that and be something for other people. Just be you, and you're going to attract people who enjoy the things you post, and you'll have that commonality, and it's cool because you find a community within that. These tips are maybe not exactly what you thought they were going to be, but I hope that it helped you in some form. You truly just you have to just be you, and you are your brand, and always remember that. Just keep focusing on God, and He's going to show you who you are. Who do you think puts those desires in your heart anyways? You know, God does. He puts those desires in your heart to start that business, to, I don't know, do those things. Get close to Him, and He'll reveal to you all about yourself. Promise that clarity will come. Like, give yourself grace, give yourself time to start this. This is exciting. This is enjoyable. You know, you're dying to your old self. You're becoming new. Like, this is what the Christian is. Like, the Christian life should be, the lifestyle. And the baptism, you die and you come up anew. You know, I died and then I came up a new body. That's what Christ does with us. And you don't have to try so hard. I think that's something I would have told myself when I was younger. You don't have to put so much pressure on yourself, and social media does not have to be so difficult. Content doesn't have to be so difficult. The editing aspect, you know, you get it down and you do things like that. If you want a more in-depth video about like literally creating social media, I can make one, but this was much more important than just like how to start posting, because I know there's things that stop us from doing that in the first place. So this video is kind of more about becoming that. Always remember, who you are becoming is so much more important than what you do. Identity is in who God says you are. So I hope you always remember that, and I'll leave you guys on that note. I love you guys so much, and if you have any questions at all, my DM box is always open. You can always DM me, message me. I love to interact with you guys, and thank you so much for listening. If you made it this far, you're a real one, and I love you so much, and I hope you have the most beautiful rest of your day, and love yourself, and love God, and love people well. Love you guys. Bye.